Let's not say we did. Could you quit? Okay. It'll drive you crazy.
I'm sorry.
You did see this right here today, didn't you? Mr. Bateman just brought that to me. Four sports. You did? You did five?
No, you did five. I know you played.
Yeah, well, I did a couple of things, but I played basketball, baseball, football, and ran cross country.
Daniel played up pretty well today. Mom doing?
He's good to hear.
How you been, Tony?
I don't know if you read my email or flash work.
What do you say?
We've been dealing with
Good advice. Anytime you start making rules, there are always unintended consequences.
Oh, yeah.
That leads to more
You're right.
problems than you supposed to.
You ready, guys? You ready?
Yeah. You ready?
Ready? David? Good evening. We will call the Burlington City Council April 1st, 2014 meeting to order. We'd like to take this opportunity to thank you for being here tonight. Also, we'd like to remind you, if you have an electronic device, that you would silence it at this time. We'll call on Councilmember Cilla Fawcett for tonight's invocation.
Let's bow our heads in a moment of silence, please. Thank you. I thought the angels were coming down.
Next item on the agenda is the Code of Ethics. This time we'd recognize City Clerk Renee Ward. Ms. Ward.
Members of council, it's my responsibility to remind you of your duty to avoid conflicts of interest in matters that are before us. At this time, I ask if there are any potential conflicts concerning tonight's agenda items.
None.
Ms. Ward, I anticipate that I will have a conflict on item number 6.
Next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes, March 13th, 2014, City Council special meeting, March 18th, 2014, City Council meeting.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Next item's add-ons. Consent agenda, item B, City Council work session, time change. New business, item 7, adopt a water and sewer annexation ordinance and policy. New business, item 8, set a date of public hearing, voluntary annexation.
Make a motion that we approve the add-ons.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Adoption of the agenda.
Move we adopt the agenda with the add-ons.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Consent agenda. These items are typically non-controversial. If anyone has any questions about the following items, please let us know. Item 1A, to set a date of public hearing for April 15, 2014, to receive public comments on the 2014-15 Community Development Program Annual Action Plan. B, to approve changing monthly City Council work session meetings from 7 p.m. to 5 p.m. effective May 5th, 2014.
Move we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Public hearing. 2, a public hearing has been scheduled to consider an application to rezone from O&I Office and Institutional District B2 General Business District. The properties are located on the south side of Long Pine Road, as shown on Alamance County Tax Map 3-22D, and a big portion of lots 2 and 8, consisting of approximately 8 acres. A valid protest petition has been received. This time we recognize Ms. Nelson. Welcome, Ms. Nelson.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This item for rezoning received staff approval for recommendation to the Planning and Zoning Commission. The Planning and Zoning Commission unanimously recommended approval of the request. They found that it was consistent with the comprehensive land use plan. And I'm going to show you a couple of maps here. This is the one that's in your packet to show the rezoning. You see part of the property is already zoned B2, and they are asking for this portion that's hatched to be rezoned to B2 as well, leaving this portion in the rear 232 feet in diameter from the houses to be O&I. I'm going to show you a couple of other maps.
Oh, repeat that again. Back
Sorry,
up.
sir.
Okay.
232 feet from the rezoning request to the rear lots of the houses is to remain O&I. They are only requesting for the front portion that's along Long Pine and by extension along the highway to be rezoned.
Okay, thank you.
And if you look at this map, you can see the extent of the B2 that is already in this area. And this looks purple because of the floodplain that's running through, but it is also B2 in association with this property. And commercial development exists to the north, as you can see on the zoning map. And it is by an interstate where it's normal to have commercial development, and B2 is very well buffered from those houses by the O&I, a bit in excess of what you might normally find in a situation like this. And Mr. Sejpal is here to speak on this matter.
Okay. Mr. Sedgepol.
Yes, sir, I'm going to say a few things about me first, you know.
First of all, state your name and your address.
That's right. Yeah. My name is Basant Sejpal, and I live in Burlington at 3023 Forestdale Drive. And I'm a resident of Burlington almost 33 years. And me and my wife moved about 33 years ago, and we went into business. I'm a chemical engineer by trade. My wife is a chemist. And we have 3 children who've grown up around this area, went to school over here. At the present time, they 2 are medical doctors, and 1 is lawyer, attorney.
Sure. Thank you.
You know, that's about it, you know, and we love Burlington. Okay, we own this property almost 28 years now. That's one thing. We had the intention of building a nice business at this location years ago, which was a close proximity of 85 at that time when we got it. There was no 40 around here. Now it's 8540. We applied rezoning for this property about 15 years ago, but nothing materialized, actually at that time, because of heavy traffic on Long Pine Road and whatever, actually, and maybe I did not have enough experience myself or whatever. I had talked with previous zoning inspector, Mr. Harkraker, and he mentioned that when New Road, Grand Oaks Boulevard is built, I should apply for rezoning, actually, and there's a good possibility, Now, most of the traffic uses Grand Oaks Boulevard, and there is particularly no traffic on Long Pine Road.
Excuse me, thank you.
In past, we had many inquiry about this location for business purpose, by real estate companies. When we told them it's zone O&I, they just turned their face around, that nobody want to talk to us. Hampton Inn and Suites, actually, he's a good friend of mine. He wanted to build the property over there, but when he realized it, he cannot build it. So sorry about that, John Deere also looked at that property, and Cox Toyota also looked at that property, before while things were going on about Cox Toyota on their location, but nothing happened because of O&I zoning over there. Nobody wanted to go through the trouble of rezoning process. That's the main thing. So we decided to rezone this property ourselves to general B2 business. We have a total of 13 plus acres of land at this location, of which 5 plus acres is in a flood zone. Which is the left-hand side that you see the flood zone, including, actually.
Would you repeat what you just said there, sir? I'm sorry, I couldn't understand.
Okay.
If you would, speak into that microphone.
Okay, we had 13 plus acres of land total, of which 5 acres in a flood zone.
Right.
So we can't do nothing about it.
Okay.
Other 4 acres, actually, we thought a lot about this, actually residents and everything. And I said, how can we not disturb these people, actually, if there's a business comes along, there's going to be some disturbance, actually, but. So we kept enough buffer zone over there, so there will be no trouble, actually of any kind. No, we require only 40 foot, but I said, no, let's go this side because this way we're going to have only 4 or 5 acres left, which we can build something small, not big, and that be restricted to that. And then we can, backside, we can do whatever we want to do as a O&I, actually, until something comes along. Okay, and we are mainly, the development will be northern portion, northeast portion over there, that's all. I think this breakdown is the best use of the property in every respect. We kept O&I, we're not using O&I over there, and just small portion of the land in the front. At the present time, we have no plan to develop this land, nothing is planned. But opportunities can knock any time, actually people keep come asking, the area is growing tremendously, actually, and if something good comes along, we will definitely entertain that, and we are not also desperate to sell the land or anything, that's the other thing. We are not in any kind of financial trouble or anything that we want to dump this and get rid of it or anything like that, no, that is not there, so, and the other thing, we had some petition and everything, but we owned this land long time ago, and there was no waterfall development at this time over here, so I think this is the right time, actually to look at this opportunity, and other thing is businesses are looking at 8540. That's how Burlington is growing more. Many people from inside businesses wants to come on 8540. So this would be a perfect way to entertain our own businesses around here or businesses from outside, if they want to come over here. And 4 and 5 acres, they are limited development, that's all. So I think it's legitimate from our side, and that's all I can want to say.
Questions for Mr. Setchpal at this time?
I got a question. How much is in the floodplain of the 8 acres you requested? Is it 4 acres?
About 4 acres, that is
And
correct.
so
Right, yeah.
effectively, 4 acres
Right, yes, yes.
is developable.
Right, yes, 4 acres on that's correct, yes.
Okay, and the back portion of it will remain O&I.
That is correct, completely, from one end to the other, actually we kept at O&I, that's right. There's a small portion is B2, but that is in a flood zone, so no problem there. So entire line of 235 feet is O&I.
If I understood you correctly, you said 15 years ago you had brought a petition before the council, is that correct?
That is correct.
For rezoning?
Right,
Was
yes.
that also to B2, do you recall?
Oh, yeah, it was B2, but I had applied for the whole thing at that time, all 13 acres, yeah.
Were these condominiums or apartments here on Victoria Falls Drive, was that in place back at 15 years ago?
No, sir.
That's what's changed?
That is correct, yes.
Since that
That
point
has
in time.
changed, right, yes.
All right.
Mhm. That wasn't there at all at that time.
Any other questions for Mr. Setchpal? Thank you, sir.
Thank you. If any petition has any question, I would like to speak later on, actually.
Sure.
And we have submitted the whatever paper you have to the
Okay.
petitioners.
Thank you, sir. This is a public hearing. Anyone on this side that would like to speak? Just state your name and address, ma'am.
Okay, my name is Kathy Chantry, and I live at 2913 Ardmore Street, and I've lived there for 27 years. I have some additional maps that I obtained here that kind of shows the curved area that that he's speaking of.
Sure, absolutely.
I have 3 copies. The issues that we're concerned with in our neighborhood right now are that,
Can I interrupt you a second, ma'am?
Sure.
Explain what you have here for us in front of us.
okay, that's a map of the neighborhood that was from 2010. They didn't have an updated one here at the city offices when I obtained that. And the red outline is showing the area to be rezoned. And then it shows the Waterfalls neighborhood, Victoria Drive. And there's more houses on there because, again, that was 2010. That's all they had updated. And the point that I'm making by showing you the map is that the curve is very significant as far as traffic flow, and if something, businesses are put there, it encroaches on our right. And right now, we've had increased traffic in the neighborhood. People are pulling out in front of us from the Kangaroo gas station, IHOP, Holiday Inn Express, Hampton Inn, Outback Steakhouse, and even the Word of Life Church. And by adding more businesses to this area, especially near the curve, would make for more accidents and people's safety. There have already been accidents of people missing the curve and driving into the woods there. We're concerned about an increase in crime. There have already been break-ins and recent incidences, like at the club on Kirkpatrick Road, where shots were fired towards the neighborhood, and at police. The increased noise is another issue from people entering the establishment or hanging out in parking lots, as well as dumpsters banging, delivery trucks coming and going. The increased bright lights, like if you put in a hotel there, which could be done, we're talking probably of 4 stories, because Hampton Inn and Holiday Inn Express already have 4 floors in their management. So you're looking at lights coming into Victoria Falls, and also the people that are over on Long Pine, as well as just, people being able to peer into their homes. The privacy. As a neighborhood, we have less privacy. Towering buildings could, like I said, view into people's homes. And we just feel that this area just needs to stay a neighborhood. We've already increased traffic with Interstate 8540 in the time that I've lived there. Huffman Mill Road is now 4 lanes where it used to be 2. And then they've reconfigured Kirkpatrick Road where it used to come out onto Huffman Mill Road, and all of that presents more problems with traffic. And I would just like to see this, and I'm sure there's others here that agree with me, that it just needs to stay a neighborhood. We already have enough. We don't need any more. Thank you.
I just want to make sure that I'm comparing apples to apples here. You have this red line like so. According to this map, it goes straight across. Which is right, Ms. Nelson? You're drawing up there or
The
this?
drawing is correct,
The one up there?
yes.
So
Okay.
this right here is not correct?
That's the one they gave me right here at City Hall and printed off for me.
Okay, would you look at this, please, and tell me? See how the house is on the corner?
This house here?
Right. See the red line? Following the red line?
This house did not object.
Right. I'm talking about the red line. Follow the right there where the red line is.
Right.
Is that,
It'll be back here.
okay, so that's
Not
correct.
here.
Okay, all right. That's what I needed to know. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
The next person over here that would like to speak?
My name is Brandon Delk. I live at 2895 Victoria Falls Drive. And I'm not sure what the forum is. I just have a question. You know, this is all new to me. My wife and I just moved into this neighborhood literally 2 months ago. And my property, my home, would be adjacent to, it would butt up, be adjacent to the property that's in question for rezone. So I guess I have more comment to say than maybe, and also a question for the property owner. The first question I came into tonight was, you know, I had received in the mail yesterday this map. I'm guessing it's addressed to those of us who live in Victoria Falls and about the protest position for zoning request. It includes the map that we've seen here on the screen. And there is, on our map that we were given, I guess as homeowners, this was again put in my mailbox, there's a piece there, and I apologize for not having a copy of this for the council, but there's a piece here that is on our map that is the blue part that we see on the screen. It's green for those of us who received this piece of paper. It says there's a 4-acre buffer zone, 235-foot buffer zone, and then that last square on the right in the blue is blank. And so the first question that I had was, is that going to be buffer zone? Because in the map that was presented to you guys, that is there laminated, there's that part, the only way I know how to describe it is as a T that would back directly up to my lot.
That's the question I just asked.
Yeah, and so
that map is appropriate, this is not.
Okay, so that there is buffer zone there. Okay,
Right.
that was one of the questions that I had, and I guess just the only comment that I would bring up for consideration is just again, I would request that it would remain as a residential or neighborhood. I know I'm not exactly familiar with what it could be done now if it weren't rezoned, what could be built there. And what he could do with his property. I'm sure there could be something done. But as I'm speaking simply as a tax-paying citizen in the city of Burlington, who's a father with 2 young sons, that 3 and 6 months old, that property would back directly up to, who I already have, you know, lights coming into our home from the interstate, and we anticipated all of those things. We made a decision for our family to buy a home in this economy where that's a tough thing to do. Knowing all of those knowns, but we did not anticipate potentially having encroachment further to our property. And so it's just a little bit daunting to think of having a new property that you've bought that already doesn't have a ton of equity in it, where if we needed to sell one day, it may be harder to do because you have property that butts directly up to your home, not to mention with 2 young sons, safety being a concern. If that were to be a gas station or a hotel, just increased traffic in the vicinity of our home. And so that's what I would like to add for your consideration.
Thank you, sir.
Ms. Nelson?
Yes.
Delk, D-E-L-K.
What was your first name? I didn't get
Brandon.
Brandon, okay, thank you.
You had a question?
To answer his question, could you maybe give an example of what currently could go in there?
I've got a long list here of possibilities.
Now, Mr. Bell, are you asking what can go in B2?
No.
The proposed
Currently,
No.
the way it's zoned today.
Current today.
Today. I don't have the O and I list right in front of me. Hang on a second.
And I'm going to follow up that question, Ms. Nelson, with asking you, this is not a conditional zoning request, is that correct? So I'm going to
Yes.
ask you to give us a litany of the things that can go into a straight B2 zone.
Correct.
That's a long list, too.
But I want
understand
to
that.
give you some clarification as to what currently, without any petition to this council, could go in.
Right.
Of course, institutional, commercial, office uses, limited contact with the public in areas that are predominantly residential in character. I apologize, this is taking so long.
No, that's fine.
I didn't have that all printed out.
O&I is, in the years past, has normally been the transitioning residential to business zoning.
It provides a buffer.
And the bottom line is, as a city council and the decision makers here, we're not really allowed to even ask the question as to what it is that he anticipates putting in here or what he plans to put in here, because we're rezoning it to it's not a conditional zone, it's a straight rezoning.
Correct.
So once it's rezoned, there's no protection if it meets the criteria. He's got to meet the setback requirements and all that are required in the B2, but any use under B2 can go in there. Is that correct?
That's correct. However, let me find my notes here. And I found, let's see, just the first one I came to, aside from accessory buildings, agencies, including but not limited to travel, brokers, insurance, loan, and it's real estate, employment. Let's see, and allied health offices, including but not limited to physical and occupational therapists, vocational rehabilitation, opticians, dental and medical health personnel. And in addition to what you were saying, sir, some uses, although they're allowed as a matter of right, do have restrictions that are associated with them that may not allow them to go into whatever zoning district is being requested or in existence currently. So there are some uses that may be listed for use as B2, but they cannot be used in this location due to their proximity to residential, say.
So backing up to the original question of O&I office, you're talking about an office complex on the way it's
Yes.
today?
Yes, sir.
Whether it be medical, insurance, whatever the case may be, it can be
Real
office.
estate.
All right, so an example of the B2 would be hotel, motel,
Kangaroo, convenience store.
Bakeries, banks, churches, clubs, lodges, colleges, universities, community buildings not for commercial gain, restaurants, electrical shops, dwelling units for human habitation.
okay, does that answer your question? Thank you. That answer your question, sir?
It does.
All right, thank you.
So, am I allowed to address from here, my seat? I'm sorry. Sorry, guys. So, as it is now, it is available for development.
Correct.
In the sense of an office complex, something that is not retail from a standpoint of, I guess rezoning just gives him a larger pool to draw from that could also include what he already could do without it being rezoned. correct? Does that make, I probably phrased that harder than it needed to be.
I think that's correct. It's not residential now.
Right, right. So if it were to be rezoned, it could be a hotel, motel, gas station. Currently, it could be retail space and a,
Bank.
bank, whatever it may
Right.
be. Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. Next.
Would you like to see a copy of this map, sir?
I've got one.
Because this is really where you can speak to the issue and understand what the residents are concerned about.
Okay, that'll be fine. Are you up? Are you speaking next, sir?
I could if you want me to.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm Peter Ambrose. I live on the first lot as you drive in the waterfalls. In other words, I am at the extreme end. I'm almost butted up against Long Pine Road. We've been there a year. 2859 Victoria Falls Drive. I'm appalled by what we're hearing by this. Same way he is, I think. We've been here for a year. We're trying to settle in, get familiar with the area. As far as I'm concerned, the area back there is our buffer, such as it is to the traffic noise from I-85, which at times is considerable. Long Pine Road is a service road. If you look at the top end of it, it's got hotels, gas stations, restaurants. It's got, what's the name of that road that comes out? Kirkpatrick, where people love to pull right in front of you at the moment's notice. They don't seem to see you at all. It's not made for the kind of heavy-duty traffic that would result in having more Hampton Inns down that far on the road. I will be impacted probably the most because I'm on the end right near the curve. And I feel like, I don't know whether you gentlemen have ever driven down that road, but if you drive down it, you will see sections periodically that have been run through by traffic from 85. And there's one gap in there right now. They come off the highway, they go through the fence. Sometimes they get back on our street, sometimes they don't. That street is not made for the kind of traffic that we could anticipate if this thing is changed to O&I.
B2.
B2. What could go in now that would not bother us, at least from my standpoint, would be a row of doctor's offices, something that is not retail trade, that would be Monday to Friday at 6 o'clock. There's no more traffic resulting in that business. But if you put another one, gas station or that convenience store, which is up the road from us, and you look at the trash, the litter, you look at the amount of traffic that comes through, it makes that little road very hazardous. To put another hotel down in there, I think would be a terrible mistake. I am very concerned, as he is, by the fact that we hardly have any equity at all in the house right now. You got 2 months.
Yeah.
We got a year. If we should decide to sell that house, and we get the kind of development that would be like hotels and that kind of thing, it'll lower the value, it'll make the property less desirable, and it might even make it impossible to sell the house. There are 80 lots in Waterfalls. It's filling up fast. There's already a lot of traffic there because of the residents and because of the through traffic going from Long Pine to Grand Oaks, and also what's your street?
Ours is Long Pine and
White Oak. On the coast. You go off right Long Pine, turn left on White Oak, and then you can go on that road on the way to exit 143. I feel like my property is in jeopardy. I'm worried. I'm upset because I feel like this is a mistake. I don't really have much of an objection to an office complex that isn't a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week operation. But if you put things in like another Hampton Inn or that gas station up the road, it's going to be a mistake. Thank you.
Yes, sir, can I see the map that explains what the community's thinking, please?
This is the letter. This is the letter that we got through the mail, and there's the map.
All right. Thank you, sir.
My house is the first one, 2859, right up here in the.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you, sir. Anyone else over here on this side that would like to speak? Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. My name is Leslia Schofield, and I live at 2719 White Oak Drive. May I approach with this map?
Yes, ma'am, please.
Thank you. Hello, gentlemen. We live on the corner of White Oak and Long Pine. Now, that is right here. So if you have traversed that road before, and you go around that curve, we are the first house on the left.
Gotcha.
Okay? I'm as passionate about this as my neighbors. We're very upset about this.
Is your driveway off of Long Pine,
Our driveway is off of Long Pine.
face on to White Oak?
That is correct. And I can say, in the last 4 years, I've been trying to landscape our half of an acre to make it better. I want to tell you something about our neighborhood. Not only do we have a lot of new growth, we have a lot of children, young families. We also have retirees who, this is their last home. And it's a beautiful, beautiful place, and there are fine people who live there. On the other side, the older neighborhood are people also who are older, middle-aged as we are, and lots of new families coming in with a lot of challenges in that neighborhood. We are a Renaissance neighborhood. That is what we are trying to do with this neighborhood. And I know because I get out there all the time to literally landscape my property, our property, and I am there on that corner. And Mr. Sedgepaul, in all respect, that is a very heavily trafficked road, and it is a narrow 2-lane road. It is really a service road. It is already compromised by what we have to deal with on 8540, and we see accidents all the time. We've had probably 5 in the last 3 months, people coming through the fence. It is not as buffered as you would think. The growth already is very distracting in that I look out my kitchen window and I see the Outback Steakhouse, huge, huge signage because of being on the most traveled interstate in the nation, 40 and I-85. It has been bandied about by Mr. Sedgepaul that a hotel and a restaurant are going to go in there. That means a bar. That means 2 bars. We already see break-ins on our own property within the last few months, in the house next to us, in our neighbor's home, in Mr. Sedgepaul's rental property that is adjacent to the church. The woman told me this morning that she had been accosted and the man broke in to her home, which is the only residence on that side. It's a rental property, and she had been beaten in the face. She has young children. We have had an increase in crime, and the fact that we have now Grand Oaks as our another entrance and egress, which was what Mr. Sedgepaul was told, we only have one entrance into our neighborhood, the last time he petitioned y'all. And now we have Grand Oaks. So there are now 2 openings and exits to our neighborhood. That actually has caused more problems because, yes, it's wonderful to have growth, But all that traffic from Alamance Road and the bar, there was just a shooting at that bar, that is buffering our neighborhood. All that's going to do is if we have this kind of, I would say, negative growth on that property, which is really not that big, because if you cannot develop that floodplain land, which is west of our home, closer to the church and to the existing big businesses that are there, retail and all of that, and the hotels, we just can't, it's going to be really horrible for that neighborhood. The traffic is going to go up. These people we think we have it hard. At least we're on the other side of the street. But it's literally going to be right in their backyard. And we are trying, as a neighborhood, to get the crime rate down, working with the police department. They're telling us they see a great increase in that western part of the county. So I would beseech you, please, keep it as O&I, because if it will be developed, and it will be developed quickly, and there wouldn't be a petition on the table saying, please make it into B2 if there weren't plans to develop it heavily. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else on this side that would like to speak?
I appreciate the opportunity. It's Mike Williams. I live at 2940 Victoria Falls Drive. And so I live on the other side of the street from the two gentlemen that spoke from Victoria Falls Drive, both friends and neighbors. We've lived there about 3 years. And it's one of those things where I'm a pro-business guy, so I understand the idea, and I appreciate the desire to see business expand and that sort of thing. But we, like some others, probably would not have purchased there had we known that it might be something like a hotel or a restaurant or gas station, that sort of thing. It's the buffer zone, as it's being called, which I appreciate. Again, I sincerely appreciate that he's leaving 4 acres there that would at least be a few trees. Basically, they've talked about the back of their homes. Out the front of our home, we can see currently right in front of us, there's no house there because the whole neighborhood is relatively new. It's being developed right now. So there's not one directly in front of our house. So we can see the tree line, and in the winter we can see the interstate because the leaves are down. In the summer, not so much. But that's really the main buffer that we have as well. We purchased there because we thought it was a great area, and we would love to see it stay that way. I wanted to give just sort of an anecdote of what I would be concerned would happen, and I would like to start with a question, maybe for Ms. Nelson. Would a nightclub be able to be a part of a B2?
Let me check and see.
B2 general business?
Yes. However, what I said about
Sure.
proximity to residential may apply in that case.
It might apply in that case, okay. So since that's not certain, my concern primarily more than anything else would be a nightclub or something like that. Just anecdotally, just a quick story, and I appreciate your time. I, about a year ago, was out coming home, not very late. It was in wintertime, so it was already dark. It was probably 7 or 8 p.m., and the curve that you can probably see if you're looking at that particular map, as you're headed eastbound, the curve that Long Pine takes is, when you're driving it feels like a 90-degree turn. It's probably about a 50-degree turn, something like that, 50, 55-degree turn. And cars fly through there. And there was a car that he had not come from the interstate. He was just flying down Long Pine, which he shouldn't have been. And he missed his turn and was off into the woods. And I was the first responder, so to speak. I'm the guy who called 911 emergency services. And I went out and I tried to help the gentleman out. He was unconscious at first. He came to. I helped him to get away from the car. It was smoking. I didn't know if it was leaking and would explode or anything like that. Called 911. We got emergency medical services there as quickly as we could, fire engine, ambulance. But clearly the man was just completely inebriated, just drunk as could be. And it was a fresh reminder. His story for me and for the police was that he just went to get something to eat at the Mayflower. Well, I'm not sure that he got that gassed at the Mayflower, but But he was, that sort of thing is something that we would be really concerned about, far more of that with another nightclub, again, bars at a hotel, something like that. We appreciate and understand office space. We understand that would be reasonable for doctor's offices, that sort of thing, insurance, agencies, that sort of thing. But we, honestly, if out our bedroom window, looking out our second floor bedroom, and by the way, these are all, someone mentioned condominiums or whatever, these are all single-family homes in Victoria Falls Drive. So we're looking at our second-story bedrooms and our playroom, and we would be looking right into a hotel if it goes up there. So we would speak against the rezoning to the B2. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else on this side? Yes, ma'am. Okay.
I want to reiterate, Les Schofield, I want to reiterate the fact about the drunken people coming around that corner. Because we're right there on the corner of Long Pine and White Oak, we see this constantly. They end up in our culverts all the time on both sides. And because we are right there, we're the first residents. Right. You come around the curve and we're the first left. There's forest there, the buffer, and that's, I understand, also O&I right now. That's all we have to keep us from some of these commercial places, and people come into that forest area already and, do all kinds of things in there. But that element is only going to increase, especially if there are bars and restaurants and increased traffic. And again, all the time we see accidents, legitimate accidents where people are not inebriated, because that curve is very dangerous. It's already dangerous.
All right, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Anyone else on this side that would like to speak?
I would. My name is Vern Schofield. I live at 2719 White Oak Drive. I've lived there for 10 years. My property has decreased in value with the increase of the yellow section, which was one big field at one time. That increase of traffic has brought a number of traffic into that, and it's been increasingly more difficult with the traffic flow because they've opened up the other side. And
Victoria Drive.
The Victoria Drive.
So you're looking at your neighbors here saying you're the problem.
It has increased the traffic into this neighborhood.
I understand.
And in fact, I was here when Victoria Drive was first started because the original plan was to have the exit street into my driveway. And they moved it up to so it would line up with White Oak as opposed to being my driveway, which is good. But like I say, the traffic has been really busy coming through there with the increase of Grand Oaks opened up. This recent storm that we just had, actually both ends of our neighborhood got blocked in because trees came down. And everybody's trying to get in and out of those two exits. And there was just, and that road, going down that road, there has been a number of accidents because the highway, it's very slippery. You come around that corner, and that corner is very, very sharp. And a lot of times, like I head out in the morning to go to work, there's people that have come down and they're cutting that corner really tight, and then they're floating over onto the other side. And my driveway is right there. And they've come up into my driveway, into my culvert, numbers of times because they come whipping around the corner. We get a lot of large trucks that come in and thinking they're going to get back onto the highway. Now they get stuck into, they have to try and do a turnaround either in my yard or in White Oak or into waterfalls. They're trying to maneuver these big 45-foot trucks, and they're backing up onto my property, and they've gone across my front of my property a number of times, tearing up my grass. So you open that up to additional business, and it's going to have increased traffic all over my property. And like I said, my property has already gone down since I've bought it 10 years ago.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else on this side that would like to speak? Anyone on this side would like to speak?
I'm Fran Shepherd. I live at 3007 Marlborough Road. where Marlboro Road has a little curve in it. And I will tell you that everybody in the older section of Pinewood Forest and this new development, the waterfall section, we are not going to go up normally to the other end of the road, hit Grand Oaks, and go around to get back on Huffman Mill. We go through what's closest to us. So I'd say the uncurb and guttered section, plus the new section that's just been built recently, we're all going out that little service road. And we're going out there, we sometimes have cars pull out in front of us where they can't see because of the bushes at their business. And they've cut down some and made it better up there at the steak place. But I really think that it'll be more dangerous. I have personally talked to several truckers who get up to the intersection of Evergreen, which is the one nearest where I live, and White Oak and Evergreen are parallel, and they come off of Lone Pine, and then they go down Marlboro on the opposite end. And I've had several truckers that'll stop at the intersection. If I'm out in the yard, I'll walk over and wave at them, and I say, "Are you lost?" And they are. The GPS is sending them through our whole subdivision off of that little service road. And I understand the city has changed the sign at Kirkpatrick to make it bigger, so hopefully they'll see it, and they don't sometimes. We actually had one that yanked the neighbor's power line down. It was hanging a little lower maybe than most of them, and he was coming through, and he popped the power pole off into the road beside him and was hung up in it till they came and fixed it. And it wasn't his fault that it hung him up, but it's also something needs to be done to get that corrected so we don't have these huge tractor trailers coming through. And I'm not just talking about the tractor part, I'm talking about the whole rig, and they really have trouble making the turns on Evergreen or any of those because they're all square turns. The little service road there is, as long as that's open, there ought not be any more business put there. It ought to be closed if we're going to have all kinds of businesses put in there because of the amount of accidents come through the fence. Seems like about once a month or more, we're seeing the chain link fence has to be replaced because of somebody's tracks all cutting across the road there into the area that we would be driving. There's a lot of people who walk their dogs, walk their children, ride their bicycles in our neighborhoods there, and I'm just thinking, even with doctor's office and dentists and insurance companies, people are going to cut through where the GPS says is the nearest to get you out on going east on I-40/85. They're not going to go back the other direction. And I don't think it's a good move to put in something, especially something's commercial, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. We got enough drunks that cut through without having that.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else on this side that would like to speak? Yes, sir.
I guess I didn't cut it off after.
My name's Clinton Holt. I live at 2914 Long Pine Road. I've been there 30 years from the time it was one way in and one way out before they added Grand Oak. And people have already talked about our concern about security and children and stuff like that. But I can't overemphasize that. It seems like a 90-degree turn there. And this road is very, very confusing. There's not a week goes by, probably not many days goes by, a tractor trailer doesn't come down. They think that's a service road. They come down that road. They try to back. I put my mailbox up 11 times. It's a lot of confusion. It's real confusing. If you put a business with people coming and going down near that 90-degree turn, they're going to be pulling out in a road where people are coming around a 90-degree turn. We're already having a lot of accidents there. And you're going to have more people going down this road thinking they're going somewhere they're not going. They ended up in a neighborhood and they're not going to JR's, which a lot of people think that's where they're going when they start down this road. But the most disturbing thing is, and anybody who lives in this neighborhood will tell you, that when you're going west up Long Pine Road, parallel to the interstate, people at Outback and Hampton Inn continually pull out in front of you and never even look in your direction. It happens all the time. It's a really confusing piece of real estate there. And I think you have more people pulling out in the road, people coming around a 90-degree turn, it's going to be a real serious situation. Of course, you're going to have more people coming down there. They're going to be more aware of our neighborhood. We already have a lot of people standing at the hotels jogging and walking through our neighborhood. We don't know if they're jogging and walking through the neighborhood because they're casing our neighborhood out or whether they're standing at the hotel or what. But if you have another hotel, you got more people coming through your neighborhood. Can't stay home all day and watch your house. These people are casing your houses. I've worked in law school for 30 years, and I know, and I watch them all the time, and some of them are and some aren't. But the more people we have coming and going, and they're going to try to get through, they're going to try to get the JRs coming through our neighborhood. You can't do it very easily, but they're going to try to do it. And the more people you have out, the more you got coming.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else on this side that would like to speak?
My name is Arthur Pryor. I live at 2612 Marion Court. I'm about a half mile from that area. I live just off of Marlborough Street. And everything you guys have all said, I totally agree with. It's a very tight area. It's hard to move around. I've lived there 16 years. I like it very much. It's nice because you're away from everything, but close enough you can get to things. The question I have is, you've got Alamance Crossing, which I think is awesome. And there's a lot of vacant spots over there. Why not use some of that up instead of tearing up more land? That's all I had.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else on this side that would like to speak?
Hello, my name is Beth Robertson Money. Hello, gentlemen. My brother and I jointly own 2853 Long Pine Road, and that is the white section right beside the blue there. And I have to say that my brother and I do approve of this rezoning request, and I'd like to make a couple comments of kind of some history of why we feel that way. Our grandparents actually own the property that's being discussed, and they also own surrounding property at some point, and the government came and went down the middle of that with what is now known as I-40, 85. And we can all agree that everybody in this room has greatly benefited from that project, and it was for the greater good of the community. Then our neighborhood years ago got taken into the city. It was annexed in. There was folks that didn't want it, but it got taken in because of the better of the community. And I have to laugh and say that we got increased taxes and everything that went along with that, but we benefited from that. And then I would like to add that the little neighborhood that these folks are talking about, that used to be woods, and I played in those woods. But, excuse me if I'm boring someone, but I do have to say that we were very surprised that this was a neighborhood that put there because of the size of that property. We felt it was too small, plus there is buildings right now that are in the door, almost in the doorway of our house, so we are having to deal with that as well. But it was for the greater good of the community, and we respect that. And as far as getting to why we are here for tonight, growing up, we always knew that this area would be developed. Didn't know what it would be, so I'm extremely surprised that these folks did not know that it would be developed, because I have been a part of this property for 46 years, and I have always known that it was going to be developed. And I do feel sad for these folks, but I also know that this property was purchased years ago to be developed. And I felt like that this is a time, again, with Vincent, that the area is growing so much. And I know that it would be economic growth for the community. It would create jobs for those that do not have jobs, and I know there are some in this neighborhood that do not, and it would provide them with some jobs. It would also help the environment, because we would be able to have people working closer to home, and it would lessen the environmental emissions from the cars. So if you look at the overall picture, it is very much going to help the community by having this process here. And I know there's been a lot of discussion about that curve. There's been issues with that curve since I was born. So I know that that might could be something that with the redevelopment that they could take care of that curve. And with businesses being in this area, it could possibly prevent trucks from actually coming down into the neighborhood. They could turn around at this business instead of coming on around into the neighborhood. So I feel like that overall it would benefit the community, and I really appreciate you guys listening to me tonight, and I hope you have a safe night.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else on this side that would like to speak? Yes, sir.
Yeah, my name's Art Robertson. I live at 2853 Long Pine Road. I'm the little white spot on the corner right there, next to where Vincent is going. People talk about the businesses on this road. Well, there's a few that were left out here. Yeah, you got Pinewood Trace, which is rental property. Yeah, nice place up in there. A couple other people, might be renting some of the rooms in their houses. Then you have Victoria Falls. At a business standpoint, they come in and speculated on this property. We came to a meeting before the city council. I said, I have no problem with what you're going to do there. But I want to let you know, in the future, my property, I want to come back and ask for it to be zoned business. And the council said, okay, you can bring it before us later. That's the reason I didn't contest this development. It's a business. Somebody speculated. They came in, clear cut every single tree on this property almost. Nice trees. So they could divide it out. You got properties in there, I'm showing, 1.14 of an acre with a house on it? That's almost 8 houses per acre. No buffer was given to me on my little corner piece of property there, but, that's the way it is. So, I have no problem with what Vincent's doing. I think it'd be great. And like I said, there's other businesses right up through there that people are not even considering. And at the end of Long Pine Road, you got a lot of acreage right there that's owned by my cousins that could be developed. So you never know which way it's going to go. But like I said, I'm behind Vincent, and he bought this property a long time ago before anything ever happened around there. And he bought it speculating, just like the people that own the Victoria Falls area now. It's speculated. It's a business right now. They're selling property for profit. Vincent might have a chance to sell his property for profit. And that's the way I look at it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else on this side that would like to speak? Mr. Sedgefall, do you want to speak? Okay. Come forward, please.
First of all, I don't know where these people got the idea of that we're going to put the hotel over there or convenience store over there or restaurant over there. Convenience store cannot go over there, that's definite. The way the location is, some stupid guy might think of building, not me, actually. Other thing, I've been in this area a long time. I've seen this area grow and the way it grows. I'm a real estate broker myself, actually. I'm not here to make money, but I'm trying to develop this area over here, what we have. We know we cannot do anything about 5 acres and a side. 5 acres in a back office, an institution, and I'm keeping that in a back right now, Other 5 acres, I never mentioned that we're going to build motel over there. I said my friend inquired about that land. It was overnight.
Let me just say this, Mr.
Yeah.
This council is not supposed to entertain what you are proposing to put on the property. We're entertaining land use. We have to entertain all the different uses, possible uses in B2, because this is a straight rezoning. This is not a conditional rezoning. Okay. I don't think it's proper that you were to turn around and the council ask what sort of things can go into a B2. Okay. But we're not talking what you're particularly using.
No, the way these people are taking objection about hotel and motel, and that's the only thing they are talking about. I can build a 10-story building over their office building. It comes by. Actually right now the medical office building is 2-story high. It can be 3-story high. It can be 10-story high. They cannot have any view of the back over there.
Understood.
So.
Anything else you would like to say to us?
No, I would appreciate you considering this, our request for rezoning, and other thing, we don't want to hurt anybody. Whenever we do some development, we're going to ask with the city that, and even the neighbors, this is what we are talking about, actually, so it don't hurt anybody, that's the way the development should be, in my opinion, so it's does good for the city, good for me, and good for them also. So beneficial that they said about the curve over there along Pine Road. I never thought about that. But, like to see when we develop this, city can bring out that kind of a thing over there that, hey, you have to make this curve bigger over here so it will be convenient to all of them. Actually right now we got a land in Mebane, actually over there, and the city was, we were ready to build, actually, I'm talking about 15, 20 years ago. I'm no longer interested, actually the hotel over there, city came along and told us that we had to expand the road to 5-lane, walkable area, this and that, which was costing about $200,000, and we dropped the entire project. So everything depends what's going on. City controls a lot of things over there, and actually when you build something, they're not going to come and waste their money.
Okay,
they're
thank you.
going to do it the right way.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Mr. Mayor, I move we deny the request for B2 zoning. I want to get that on the floor. I think we have to get a motion on the floor first so we can talk to it, speak to it.
Okay. There's a motion.
I'd second David's motion.
Okay, you got a motion and a second, and now you'd like to have some dialogue?
I would.
Conversation?
Thank you, Mr.
Okay.
Mayor. I'm having flashbacks here, and this is really strange because Ms. Robertson, you spoke about that rezoning. Buddy Baker sits there, remember this, and so does Bob Ward. And I remember it because it was the night I got sworn in 1979 for the first time, and the annexation of Pinewood Forest was the issue. And it was turned down that night on a 3-2 vote, and about 12 months later, the petition came in because the health department got serious about it, went out there, and started making people comply with started testing water, and basically were closing houses down right and left, and the people out in Pinewood Forest at that time begged the city. Without the public facilities, water and sewer from the city of Burlington, Pinewood Forest would not be what it is today, and nothing would be out there as far as development is concerned. Let me just say this, that the flashback comes in the sense that this is the way all the public hearings used to be prior to the type of the period 2004-2005, and that's when we had a new tool put into our arsenal here at the city, and that was conditional zoning. Prior to that time, the only way that the city council could consider rezonings was exactly what we're doing here tonight. You asked for a B2, and the council had to look at all the different possibilities of what could go into B2 zoning. And it's a broad range. Ms. Nelson pointed it out. Some of those things may in fact not be very objectionable and may be fairly compatible with what's around it out there now. Others certainly would not be compatible. And that's why I've made the motion to deny the request. Frankly, this is a perfect example of the tool that we have now in our arsenal is conditional zoning. And that tool allows the city council to ask the petitioner to not just talk in terms of the broad zoning of B2, but what is it specifically that you are asking to put into that zoning, so that if there are objectionable things to it, they can be addressed by this council, by the staff. How to make normally incompatible uses more compatible. A perfect example, Mr. Owens pointed out. O&I was the tool you always used to buffer between really non-compatible uses, residential and business. And that's what we've gone back to here. And it seems a little silly when we already have a tool at hand that can address this. This is a perfect example of, Mr. Sedgepall, where you simply have to have something in mind to bring forth so that the council has something to work with. And your neighbors have understanding. They don't come down here upset because, yes, this is their primary investment. These people these homes are the equity they have, the majority of the equity they have typically. So I would submit to you that what the city council ends up having to do with conditional zoning is a balancing of interest and being able to control some of the things that are objectionable. For example, you can put berming up to stop sound. You can make sure that any sort of lighting is not offensive to the neighbors. Sound, to the extent that you can buffer it, can be addressed by way of conditional zoning. All sorts of safety issues. Some of these things you folks are talking about here tonight as far as the road is concerned, it sounds like you're down at Charlotte Speedway trying to walk on the speedway down there, the way you sounded. But as a practical matter, there are other things the city council can do. Mr. Butler has addressed this in years past on petitions. Traffic calming sort of things that you could do. If we need to slow the traffic down, you do it by other means other than just denying request for use. And that's the other thing I want to get around to. We've addressed this out in the Alamance Crossing area. This property is not going to go undeveloped. That's a taking on the part of the city, and that's not what we're into. What we're into doing and what the city council's responsibility in my mind, as I look at it, is to balance competing interest here, or interest, so that not everybody's going to be happy with what the city council does. Most of the time, they're not happy at all with what we've done. And that may be when we hit it right on target. Because what you've got to do is balance these competing interests. But we can't deny this man the opportunity to develop his property in some way. Maybe O&I is exactly what it needs to be, as it stands right now. Maybe there's some sort of business use that would be compatible if it's conditioned to avoid some of those objectionable things. You've talked about the drunks out here. Well, that's an issue of law enforcement. If we've got alcohol problems on that road, that's simply a matter of addressing it another way. You don't address it by denying a rezoning. So I appreciate, frankly, the things that have come to light here. I frankly look at it as a land use issue only. This is not in its present form, so there are too many objectionable uses in B2. I recognize the staff was looking at the bigger picture, and when you talk about the rezoning across the interstate, I really don't think that's what we call contiguous to the present property, okay? That an interstate between it just really is a little bit much. But along those lines, Mr. Mayor, I think this would be more in line for a more definitive conditional zoning request in the future.
Okay. I would suggest one, too. We've heard a lot about this curve. Mr. Kirkman, I think I would get in touch with Mike Mills with DOT and see if we can't do something in reference to that curve. I'm not sure exactly what, but it obviously is a problem, so we need to move forward with that. We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion?
Mayor, I do want to make a comment, and not going to put too much emphasis on it, but I appreciate city staff's work that they've done on this, and our Planning and Zoning Commission and the work that they've done on it, and I agree that this zoning would conform with our comprehensive land use plan. I think it was Mr. Williams that said he was pro-business. I very much am pro-business. That's the only way we provide services to this city. We're talking about a new fire department going up now, and potential of public transportation and some other things, and it takes growth to do that. And without tax base growing, those things aren't possible unless everybody in this room, me included, is willing to write a bigger check every year. But a comprehensive land use plan is exactly a plan. I am more inclined to support a project than a broad plan. A project you can touch, and Mayor Pro Tem Huffman stated it very eloquently that this project here, it really needs to be a conditional use application. I want to be very honest with everybody in this room. I do believe that's a very developable piece of land. It needs to be developed. It is in a prime corridor to be developed. Mr. Owen stated about the O&I transition. It's got a perfect transition plan where it's at. The only unknown is what impact is there. What impact would be there. If it was a project identifiable, I would feel differently. And I want to be real clear to everyone in that room, those that spoke against this zoning and those that spoke for it. I think the project in and of itself dictates the necessity of whether or not you support it, and not just a broad blanket approval. And so for those that are here, I greatly appreciate you being here, and thank you for your time.
Any other comments?
One quick comment, Mayor, and that's just simply that, and as Mayor Pro Tem Huffman had mentioned, is that, and also Councilman Butler, it clearly appears that the conditional use would give an opportunity for this council to see if there is some compatibility, and that's all I would say about it. So.
Did you understand what Councilman Ward said? Okay, thank you. Any other comments? We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Oppose? Thank you. Next item on the agenda, 3, a public hearing has been scheduled to consider A public hearing has been scheduled to consider an application to rezone from R6 Residential District to CI Conditional Industrial.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I don't think they understand that we've already voted.
Okay. Go ahead.
The petition was voted down, folks. So if that's what you came here for, and you have something to watch on TV, it's over.
You're welcome to stay, and we'd love for you to stay, but usually what happens is after you get what you need, you depart. So feel free to stay. I'd love to have a full house. We're going to adjourn for 2 minutes. Not cheating, but failed 3-1. That good discussion. Need Burlington to lead and the tax. He is. I figured he would be there when they had the vote for him. You ready? Much better, huh?
Right there. I'll go get you water.
Pick the pace up, man. We'll go back in session now. Item number 3 on the agenda, a public hearing has been scheduled to consider an application to rezone from R6 Residential District to C&I Conditional Industrial District for the use of a parking lot and all uses allowed within the I-2 Light Industrial District. The properties are located on the east side of Turntine Street as shown on Alamance County Tax Map 113-466, Lot 100, and Alamance County Tax Map 112-464, Lot 22. At this time, we recognize Ms. Nelson. Ms. Nelson.
Thank you. For this particular rezoning, the staff also recommended approval, but with the use and development conditions that were submitted by the petitioner. The Planning and Zoning Commission unanimously recommended approval to the City Council for the same reasons. And they found that the zoning changes as requested would not adversely affect the adjoining property, would be in keeping with land use planning in the area, and was consistent with the comprehensive land use plan. And Mr. Lawson Brown is here to represent Mr. Collins.
Mr. Brown, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. It's my pleasure tonight to be representing APB LLC, which is a limited liability company that Andy Albright has ownership interest in. He is also the major owner of the adjoining business to the north. National Agents Alliance operates out of that particular business. This request is site plan specific for a parking lot. Keith Hall from APB is here if I can't answer any questions that you or the public might have. Basically, this would be for a parking lot, and it would be a grass parking lot. The site is particularly challenged because it has a fair amount of topography. It has some wetlands on it. Those are not being disturbed. Certainly, the conditions that we put on there are that we will abide by, the owner, if allowed to do this, will abide by all of the environmental rules, both during construction and during maintenance, as to erosion, sedimentation control, water retention and detention. This area became a traffic problem. The National Agents Alliance on several occasions a year, 3 to 4 a year, has a number of its national agents come in to Burlington, and the major portion of the meetings is at the building there on Turntine Street. It creates a traffic problem, and Mr. Albright is addressing this traffic problem by getting those cars that are on Turntine Street, Sykes Street, and interrupting adjoining businesses. He's buying this land, will build a parking lot to alleviate that necessity. There will, by code, there can be no lighting that goes off to the residential side, and again, there will be a fair amount of buffering because of the wetlands, which will not be disturbed, and those trees will be left as they are. Brevity is the soul of wit, and no one's accused me of being witty, so with that, I'll sit down.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. This is a public hearing. Anyone on this side that would like to speak? Yes, ma'am.
Pardon me, I'm just a little bit nervous.
Just state your name and address.
Kim Dreluck, D-R-A-L-U-C-K. I'm at 607 Merlin Court. I am in that cul-de-sac. I can't see, I think he said I was 42. First, let me say that I was never given the opportunity, or I should say I was never given the ability to petition this protest because I assumed, being a first-time homeowner, that this notice to show up here would be my petition to protest. I've lived there for, I think I'm going on 7 or 8 years. My son is 12. I've had every birthday in the backyard. The deer that are back there are gorgeous. There's bunnies, there's birds, there's everything back there. One concern that I have, and I didn't find this out until I made a phone call and spoke to Mr. Leah the other day. I was told that not only are they going to build this parking lot, which I'm not opposed to, I'm a small business owner myself, and I could use the business myself, but they have nothing to do with us. And I don't want to say that I don't want them in my backyard, but honestly, I don't want them on my property, which they won't be. My concern is my property value. That area, I don't know if you're familiar with it. We have neighbors who couldn't be here tonight who cannot sell that property because the school zone, the school district, which my son attends and I work at, has gone down. I live in the Cummings district. So that's their first hindrance. My second hindrance is that I was told that, or my concern is that I was told by Mr. Leah that the two properties or the three properties or the empty lots that are on Foxton Lane would be purchased by this company. I've lived there for, like I said, almost 8 years. My concern is if this property is built, the parking lot, that's all well and good. The property directly behind my house has been empty for 7 years. And I look out back into those trees and I see the birds and I see the deer, and we have a family that comes out into our backyard almost every couple of days and we feed them. That's great. What is going to happen to those two empty lots, or however many lots that are back there? What else is going to be built back there? That's my concern, and I understand with conditional rezoning, these are the questions that we have. My property value is going to go down. I know that for a fact. It's happened. I've heard the people before us speak about all the things that have been built beforehand. Their property value has gone down. It's hard to sell those homes to begin with. When we purchased those homes 7 years ago, we were told that the empty lots would be built on and the houses would be sold. The two lots directly behind me on Foxton Lane have yet to be touched. They barely mow them. I don't care how high the grass is. I just don't want to look at somebody's office building. I don't want to look at somebody's parking lot directly behind my home. My son plays out there. We have neighbors that play out there. There's children in 10 or 12 homes that play out there. My concern, again, my property value, increased traffic flow. That is a dead-end street. Foxton Lane is a dead-end street. We bought that house specifically because it was a cul-de-sac, knowing that when my son was 5 years old, that when he became 6, 7, 8, and 12, 13, he would be able to ride his bicycle in our cul-de-sac. That's a concern for me to have my son out there with more traffic. Again, I am not opposed to a grass parking lot. I'm not opposed to things. I want to keep my nature and my wildlife. There's a floodplain back there. Is that going to be affected? What's the town's plan of action on reassessment of the residential tax table? Because if the rezoning goes through, again, our values will go down. What will the environmental impact be? You know, where do these deer and bunnies and birds, where do they go? You know, do I want them back in my backyard? Hey, if I had the room, absolutely. How much more traffic is going to come through the area? Is Foxton Lane going to become a through street? As it is now, 90% of the people that live in that area are the only people that drive in and out of that area. It's bad enough that some of them, you know, don't drive as slowly as they should. I wanted to come and petition for a speed bump right in front of the area. But allowing more business to be back there is going to cause more problems for those of us who live there. What is the traffic flow going to be? What is that going to be utilized for? I don't want to look out my bedroom window and see somebody's building big business in my backyard. I understand it's not my property. We were told, and I'm assuming we may have even been lied to sell that property. Oh, we're going to build more houses back there. And they haven't built a house there in, I would say, 6 or 7 years. I don't want to look at somebody's industry building. I don't want to look at somebody's parking lot. Again, I think I was number 42 lot, he said. But there's 2 direct empty lots. My neighbor directly behind me was not even given the opportunity of getting a letter because her property does not butt up directly against this plan. So she was excluded completely. The other people in the other neighboring areas were excluded completely because their property wasn't here. Their property is here. But I don't want my neighbor to have to look out her window and see somebody's industry building. I don't want to look out my window and see people, excuse me, coming and going at all hours of the night. An AA or whatever that business is over there, I can't tell you how many nights I've woken up because of their people leaving their work at 11 o'clock at night, or their third shift, or their second shift, and hearing blaring, loud music. You know what? I wake up. My dogs go crazy. My neighbor's baby would wake up in the middle of the night. It's not fun to listen to that at 11 o'clock at night. I want to know, how is that rezoning going to benefit our community? Because it's not going to benefit the little people that live in that community. It's not going to benefit us. There's going to be more traffic. Our property value is going to go down. And there's going to be more industry noise, you know? And again, we were never given the notification that we could protest. Because if we could, we would have had more people here with us tonight. People that are business people too. They gave us the first letter, and it was rescheduled for tonight. Nowhere in this letter was it stated, hey, Ms. Dralick, you know what, we want to build here. Hey, that's all well and good, but you can protest it. We were never even considered an opportunity. So again, we came here, and I said to myself, well, I've been here 7 years. We moved from New York and Florida. 7 years. Beautiful neighborhood. My son is growing up there. I plan to have a party for him this summer. I don't want to see their industry directly smack dab in my backyard on those empty lots. It's disconcerting to me as a fairly new member of the Burlington community, who works in the Burlington community, who probably teaches some of the children whose children go to school here, to not even be considered. And it hurts me to know that I could live in a society, in a community, where big business doesn't give a darn about those of us who live here. I don't want my son. And if God forbid, I have to go back up north because my mother is sick and dying, and I need to sell my home, nobody is going to buy that land. Nobody's going to buy my house. Nobody's going to say, I don't want business in I don't know what's going on in those two lots. I'm in the corner lot right there, where it V's out like that. I want to know what's going up there if that's conditional, you know? And I don't think that people really care about us. They just care about the money that's going in their pockets. And again, I support business, I do. I'm a small business owner myself. But I don't want anybody's parking lot directly behind me. I don't. It's not fair.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else on this side that would like to speak?
I'm waiting for this. Who is this?
Bruce Claypool, 610 Maryland Court. Evening, gentlemen. I'd just like to echo what Kim just said. I don't have much to add except one suggestion to the owner of the company. If he wants to expand without opposition, why not buy us homeowners out at fair market value with a cash incentive? Therefore, he won't have any problems. That's something for him to dwell on. That's about all I had to say. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else on this side that would like to speak?
Good evening. My name is Doug Drolick. I'm at 607 Merlin Court. If you couldn't understand my wife, she's from New York. She speaks fast, and that's why she likes the deer. A lot of what was said, are mainly the two properties behind my house, the one directly adjacent and then across on Boxton Lane. I'm getting conflicting information as to whether that property is being sold to NAA or not. That's part of the reason why I'm here, to find out if that property is definitely going to still be residential or is it going to be commercial, industrial. I understand the parking lot. I don't agree with it. I understand with it. I can live with it. But again, I want the information of what's going directly behind my house. If they are going to buy that property, again, the other question is Boxton Lane going to become a through street? Right now it dead ends into the woods, which also means my residential complex dead ends. There's one way in and there's one way out. I know I've spoken to a lot of the neighbors on Barningham Lane which is the main road that goes through. No one was informed of what's going on, so that's trying to get information back to them. But I know growing up or being in a closed residential area changes things if Boxton Lane opens up. Would I like to go through, cut half the distance? Yes, but I don't want 300 cars a day going through our closed residential district. Our cul-de-sac and that's where the kids play. My wife had mentioned I have a 12-year-old. There's probably 10 or 12 kids that come down and play. Things will change if cars are running through, going in and out all day long. Again, NAA is open at least until 11 o'clock, if not later. Their lights I can see from my house now because of the trees that have come down. That's the storm. It happens. I understand that. Getting another road through, getting the parking lot, that's going to change the lights from Turrentine. We're now buffered by all those trees being able to shine into my house, into my yard. I don't know if those were, yes, there's no, what they're saying, no lights going into the parking lot, but there's other lights there. That those trees, the wildlife is nice. I grew up in the woods. It's nice to see in the middle of Burlington, deer, coyotes. And I understand business doesn't care about wildlife. It's human nature, but it's neat for my son to see it, to grow up with it like I grew up with it, like most of y'all grew up with it. I grew up in the woods in North Jersey. Coming here to Burlington was the same for me. It didn't remind me of big business. It reminded me of small town life in Jersey. And that's part of the reason we chose Burlington. And that's part of the reason we chose where we are, because we were told it was going to stay residential. But that's all I got.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else on this side that would like to speak? Wait just a second, Mr. Brown. We'll give you your last shot there. Anyone on this side that would like to speak? Mr. Brown.
Mr. Mayor, can I make one comment before you start?
Sure.
I'm concerned about the wording of the conditions they have in here. If you read, they've categorized it as conditional use zoning. If you look at the condition, it says for a parking lot and potentially for any use in the I-2. Effectively, it's an I-2 zone, not a conditional use zone.
I have the very same concern, philosophically, as a practical matter, maybe not an issue, but it looks like to me it's requesting a straight I-2 zoning.
That's what it is.
I think you need to go back to the board.
Mayor, Mr. Ward, Mr. Bateman, the wording was per staff recommendation, and the site plan that we submitted, we would make that a condition so that it would be a parking lot, and so that if we had to come back with the site plan, it would be site plan specific, and so before we could come back and change anything other than a parking lot, we'd have to come back to you. So I would like to clarify that, make that a condition. Also, I would like to make it a condition that we're not going to expand the street that you see at the top, Boxton, into the site so that there wouldn't be any traffic. The neighborhood folks, their neighborhood is separated currently. They have one way in out onto Maple Avenue. We don't anticipate and don't want to have any traffic going on. So with the caveat that we'll make it site plan specific to what you've got for a parking lot.
Mr. Brown, clear this up for me, because you're saying there's a difference between site plan specific and use specific. And I think what the board is looking at in conditional use zoning is use specific.
Correct.
So, Mr. Brown, are you saying that this is going to be, the condition is it's going to be used only for a parking lot? Is that what we're...
Yes, sir. I mean, I can make that condition. Well, I can eliminate the other uses.
This language has to be taken out.
I'm comfortable taking that out as we stand here tonight. which would be much more restrictive than what Planning and Zoning Commission, but my understanding when we went to Planning and Zoning Commission in discussions with staff was that it was site plan specific and use specific in terms of that it would just be a parking lot, and that if we wanted to do anything else, we would come back before you if we went outside that footprint of that parking lot. Very much like we've done on other conditional zonings where we've had a specific plan, where we've gone by the specific plan. So with that caveat, I'd like to encourage you to proceed on that basis if Mr. Bateman and Mr. Ward and the rest of the council feels comfortable with it.
I don't feel comfortable with it.
Well, I think you need to spell out and write out for us exactly what the conditions of use for the lot are. Excuse me, allergies have gotten me, so I can't project, but the board needs to have it in front of them, what the uses that will be permitted, so the neighbors will know what's going on.
I think that's fair enough. I would like to not go back to Planning and Zoning Commission. If we can get an adjournment here, then I will put the language before you, and then you can look at it and see. I know that, and I guess I'd like it.
Is this had to be re-advertised?
No, and it really doesn't need to go back to planning and zoning, because what he's doing is making it less broad than what P and Z approved. What we're really doing is clearing up the language that I think the board, planning and board, thought it was considering.
Just defining a clarification.
Yes.
Well, yeah, just a clarification, but it needs to be done officially. I mean, you need to come back, has been suggested, not necessarily go through the total process, but,
Sure.
It needs to be cleaned up and come back. We can continue this and consider it at a later time, but, to me, when I read it, it just looked like an I-2, straight zoning.
Again, that was in consult with the staff.
Well, I disagree with that approach, and certainly as a member of this board, I'm entitled to do so.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
I don't have any problem with your decision, Mr. Ward.
And as far as notification was concerned, I know there's been some comment, but we follow the state statute on that, as far as sending letters out, do we not, staff?
And the applicant has nothing to do with that.
Sure.
That's a city responsibility.
And the property itself is posted for rezoning. So
Where did the conversation come from, Mr. Brown, in reference to cut-throughs and the vacant lots and all that conversation? Because what I thought was just a simple parking lot to get traffic off the road.
Mr. Hall might be able to answer that. There'd been no discussion, Mr. Wall, at the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. There was no one there. It was only Friday afternoon that Mr. Lee called me and said this lady had called and had voiced some concern about it. So we'd had no interaction with the neighbors because we were not going into that neighborhood, nor had we planned to buy any of the previously platted residential lots.
Okay. So basically what you were going to do is you purchased a vacant lot to put a parking lot on to get the cars off of the side road 3 or 4 times a year, period. Because we did get telephone calls the last time you had one of these large meetings. We did. And
that was a safety concern.
Sure.
We don't have any intention of doing anything other than parking lot. And honestly, there shouldn't be anybody there at 11 o'clock at night. We don't run a second shift. Except on the weekends that we have the events.
Right. And that's about 3 or 4 times a year?
It is 3 or 4 times a year. We
Right.
did let the Chamber of Commerce use the facility one Saturday night, and we have let some other charitable organizations.
Right.
The United Way.
Sure.
Used it, some other charities have used it over.
Sure. Okay. And I appreciate that. We appreciate that. But it was one of the issues was elimination of all the traffic and things like that. So it did cause some concerns in the neighborhood with business owners, not necessarily residential neighbors. Okay. Absolutely. And I agree. I don't disagree.
We're moving to continue this to the 15th, and at that point in time, we've not closed the public hearing. That will give these folks an opportunity to come back and address and Mr. Brown had an opportunity to talk to them even between times, okay? I move we continue the public hearing to the April 15th city council meeting.
Second. Got a motion and second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to take one moment here, and I haven't had an opportunity to talk to you, but congratulations to you on your appointment as city attorney for the city of Mebane, and you may even have an opportunity to see this problem again. You know?
I hope that I have many opportunities to see many problems again.
I hope you do as well.
And Bob, if I last as long as Charlie Bateman in Mebane, I'll only be 105. Thank y'all.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is new business. City Council will consider temporarily closing Front Street between South 4th Street and Spring Street during Burlington Junior Women's Club Annual 5K Run fundraising event on Saturday, April 12th, 2014, from 7:30 until 10:30. This time, I'd recognize Ivy McCrickert. You've been very patient tonight. Thank you.
No problem. Yes, I'm a member of the Burlington Junior Women's Club, which is a nonprofit community organization that's been in Burlington for over 58 years. And we have our third annual Tata Trot 5K, which is on April the 12th, Saturday. And we are partnering with Little Pink Houses of Hope, which is our Tata Trot for breast cancer. And this is our third year doing the run, and it is downtown Burlington. And we had some traffic issues right around the finish line where runners will cross over. And we're asking that the street be closed from Spring Street to Worth Street, right there in front of the depot.
It says here the closing of Front Street between Southworth Street and Spring Street. Is that accurate?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. McCrickert?
Usually all of the insurance issues, we have to have that.
Probably.
We do have liability insurance within Burlington Juniors.
But you will submit it to Ms. Reese?
A copy of the insurance? Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Ms. McCrickert?
I make a motion that we approve the request to temporarily close Front Street, Southworth, and Spring Street during the time allowed. With the condition that all the requirements are met from staff with regards to anything necessary.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you, Ms. McCrickert.
And I have applications if anybody would like to participate in the run.
The mayor is a candidate. He does that fairly often.
Would you like one to look
I think
over?
you did one this
Oh,
time.
absolutely. Would love to.
Designated runner.
Somebody like this can't do it. I'm sorry.
That's right.
I got a whole stack.
Thank you. You're very kind. Thank you. Put them right there.
Chief to follow him in the EMS.
Yeah. Thank you for that confidence.
Mayor,
Sir?
I think we need to go back to number 2 on the, the rezoning request. And say, Mr. Nelson, the council needs to take certain action about it not being consistent with a comprehensive plan on that denial, correct?
Yes, sir, you do.
Okay. If you would explain it, I think I understand it, but if you explain it to everybody here, so.
Regardless of how you vote on one of these rezonings, you need to adopt a consistency statement
Okay.
or lack thereof.
Okay. Thank you, Councilman Ward and Ms. Nelson, for pointing that out.
I make a motion that we find the city council finds that the above amendment is inconsistent with the city of Burlington's comprehensive land use plan, that this action is not reasonable and not in the public's best interest, and that the amendment is incompatible with the existing land uses and will not provide for adaptive reuse of the property being rezoned.
That's in effect an amendment to the motion to deny. It's follow up in tandem with that, so.
Right.
Okay. Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you again. Let's see, where are we now?
Just give me a headache.
Item number 5, City Council will consider an extension of discount options at the Pet Adoption Center. At this time, we will recognize Animal Service Director Jessica Aris. Welcome. Sorry you've had to experience this.
Good evening. It's getting late in the evening, so I'll keep
Absolutely.
it short, but we're really excited to be seeking approval to hold several reduced-fee adoption events throughout the summer months at Animal Services, and we're seeking to hold one event per month and kind of centered around a weekend, similar to what we have done for our Valentine's Day event, which was very successful. We're seeking this as a result of our efforts to decrease the number of animals that are euthanized, especially during the busier summer months. During the spring and summer months, we usually experience an influx on the intake of animals as a result of puppies and kittens surplus during those months as a result of the breeding cycles of cats and dogs. We look to offset the number of animals that we have to euthanize as a result of overpopulation in our facilities and just simply having more animals than we can manage. So in the past, these events have been very successful for Burlington Animal Services, especially when the discounts are at least 50% off, which is what we're requesting from the regular fees. It seems to draw folks in and results in a lot more of adoptions. So,
Any questions or comments from staff, from council?
I think it's a good idea.
What did you say the time frame was, once a month?
yeah, we're looking to do short-term events. I think that those seem to be more successful than the long drawn-out events. They get kind of tired, I think, with folks, members of the public. But doing short events kind of centered around different themes once a month, and we would do it one weekend a month, kind of on a Friday, Saturday.
Any other questions?
We approve of the request. A second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda, City Council will discuss the hiring process for a new city attorney.
Mr. Mayor, I would, at this time, I indicated earlier at the conflict portion that I might have a conflict, and at this time, I just want to say that I want to express to you as well as the rest of the council that I have an interest in the city attorney's position. It's been my honor to serve on the council for 29 of the last 35 years, and I'm familiar with the town, the people in our town, certainly the city staff, and many of the issues that we faced over the years and the legal issues that we faced. I have a law degree, the requisite law degree. I've also studied and gotten a master's degree in public administration at Chapel Hill. And with a concentration in city government, I have an interest in this job. And along those lines, having expressed that interest, I would ask to be recused. I think it appropriate and probably ethical that I not participate in the selection process, including council discussions regarding the procedures to be used, and I would ask that I be allowed to recuse myself and leave the dais for discussions.
So moved. Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, thank you. Okay, with that being said, as we move forward, the attorney discussion will be led by the council, but we'll start off with Mr. Bateman in reference to some preliminary work that needs to move forward. So, Mr. Bateman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before we move on to the qualifications and the process for selection of an attorney, there's been some discussion among you all individually, and some of you expressed to me, as to whether the position should be a full-time position, a part-time position, or a retainer position. That being the case, Mr. Mayor and members of council, it would be appropriate to have a discussion among the council about what do you want to have for your next representation. And the options are, as I stated, a full-time staff attorney, which you've had for the last 45 years, or, I guess 48 years now, Bob, or a part-time attorney, which I've done for the last 3 years, and only Bob and I could have done that for the last 3 years, or a retainer from an outside law firm.
I have some thoughts on it.
Sure.
You know, and I guess you wanted just to jump in.
Absolutely.
There's two things. Number one is that the city attorney works, you know, very closely with staff, probably more so than to do the city council. I would like to have some staff input. Now, I'd like to receive it sort of anonymously from the staff, you know, as to whether they think the retainer as, you know, arrangement will work, or the part-time or the full-time. Harold, do you still have a staff meeting on Wednesday morning after this meeting?
Wednesday afternoon.
Like I said, it's subject to the rest of you thinking. Number one, I think it'd be good to hear from them, because they need and call on the attorney frequently, probably more so than we do. And number two, it would be good, at least I'd like to have the information, you know, what other cities, comps in terms of population, you know, what do they have? Do they have retainer? Do they have part-time? Do they have full-time? And I think that information will be available, you know, from the League of Municipalities. I think that would be very helpful for us. I think we have time enough to do it, and I think we can still meet, you know, the time frame that I believe you put out the time frame.
Just for discussion for us to get started. It can all change if we think it's necessary, but I knew that the meeting tonight, we had to start this.
Well, you had to start somewhere.
Absolutely.
And of course, the clock is ticking.
Sure.
And so I would like that information, and, you know, even if we get it by the next meeting, you know, I think, you know, or, you know, whatever you want to do, you know, but I wanted to get my thoughts on that out, you know, 'cause, and with all due respect, I have some notion of the position.
Say, I'd like to see a full-time position, but from what Councilman Ward said, I'd be willing to go along with his ideas about getting something from staff, from Mr. Owens. But I think it's a full-time position, but I still like to have that information as well.
Well, obviously, with this situation sort of looming before us, I know that from time to time we're interacting with other municipalities and various events and workshops and whatnot. And I sort of echo CeeLo's thoughts. It seems to me that the full-time position for a city our size is what is most prevalent and what those I talk to. But I concur wholeheartedly with Councilmember Ward's comments that staff's important. They do work with staff. I mean, it's comforting for them to work with us too, because as we could tell tonight, we had to have an attorney keep us in check according to procedures on numerous times. But a lot of outside discussion prior to council meetings are important from time to time. Also, would be remiss if I didn't say I'm happy that Mayor Pro Tem Huffman is interested in the job, because those qualifications are certainly stellar as well. So I agree if we can move in that direction and get some input and start creating a framework. I agree with the process to this point.
I don't disagree with anything that's been said. I assume that if we had someone experienced that we could go part-time, but I'm like Councilman Ward said, I'd like to get some more information, what other municipalities are doing. I'm fine with waiting and having that information for the second meeting, if it works out for us to gather that. So I'm fine to get the input from staff, but I think that we know that the clock is moving, and we also know that I think we can get this information by the next meeting in April. So I'm fine with gathering the data and moving to the next step. But I'm fine with that. So I guess the question is back to, do we hire a consultant or we advertise? And that was one of the other topics that we discussed as well.
Mayor, that's probably tied in pretty closely to what your decision is about
Right.
part-time or full-time.
Okay.
Right, that's my thinking, is it's going to be tied in to that. In other words, well, again, it all depends on how this body comes out with part-time, full-time retainer.
Sure.
You know, that process, and I think that can be fairly routinely determined once we decide what direction we're going, you know,
Okay.
on the first issue.
All right.
I'll just throw this out on the table, Mayor, that I feel we shouldn't go to consultants or send it out for anything. I think we can do this in-house and do it a good job on it. So I just don't want to have to spend any money out sending consultants.
Okay, and I think that we, like Councilman Ward said, I think that once we reach a decision on the full-time, part-time, or retainer, then we can quickly put that together. I don't think that's a very big deal at this point in time. Does that go along with the qualifications and stuff, too?
I think it does, Mayor.
Okay.
And
All right.
I think you're looking at a
All right.
different ballgame.
Well, then, let's do this. We have a timeline in front of us. We can talk about the timeline, but it appears to me from our discussions at this point in time that we're really sort of gearing up to have more of a detailed conversation the second meeting in April than we are tonight. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
You would?
Yeah, I would like to ask, and I don't, of course, we don't know what's going to be before us, but I'd like to allocate a fairly good chunk of time, if you will, to talk about this. And
Okay.
I guess that's a hint to Harold if we don't have to load up the agenda otherwise, if that's possible. So
I'd like to see it at the end of the agenda as well.
that'll be good.
Yeah. All right, any other comments in reference to this discussion? Okay, then Mr. Bateman will be prepared to discuss this in great detail at the second meeting in April. Okay?
Yes, sir.
All right, good, thank you.
I would like to ask one thing. As soon as that information is available, if you could get it to us. In other words, not with the package the Friday before the meeting. Like if you get it, then like next Monday, if you would, just get it on to us. I think it'd be helpful.
And that information will be gathered by you, Mr. Bateman, is that correct?
Yes, we'll have that by the end of the week.
Okay. All right, good enough. Any other comments before we move forward? Okay, item number 7, City Council will consider adopting an ordinance amending City Code 37-30, annexation policy for water and sewer connections. This time, recognize Mr. Bateman.
Mr. Mayor, this is a matter that we have discussed at the work session several times, and we've also discussed it at city council meetings. And what we're dealing with is an amendment to Section 30-37 of the city code. Currently, all requests for water and sewer service must come before the council for approval prior to any action being taken, and they must also be accompanied by an annexation petition. It's been a very effective policy for the city over the last 4 decades, and certainly nobody wants to take any action that would disrupt that. However, there are occasions, and they're becoming more frequent, where we have homeowners who are in front of lines, which we already have in the ground, and they're having to go through costly annexation processes and delays when they may have urgent needs for water. We had a similar event take place over near the new Sheets facility last year, you might recall. The staff has met several times and discussed ways that we might accommodate that and still retain the control that the council needs over the growth of the city. And what we have suggested to the council is an amendment to that ordinance, which would essentially say that if you live in front of a line that's in the street, water line or sewer line, and you're outside the city, you may come in, go through the processes with the city department. We will still require that you give us an annexation petition and an agreement, which will be recorded and run with the land. However, the difference is that once that information is certified by the city attorney as being fully complete and accurate and binding, then the staff will be authorized to go ahead and let the TAP proceed. We would then bring the petition for annexation to you, as we've done in the past, for council's consideration. In effect, what you do is you speed the process up, plus you guarantee people that they are going to get the service. Right now, there's no guarantee when we bring it up here that you'll get the service either way. This will be a guaranteed service. We think it's good for the community, and certainly it is recommended by the Water and Sewer Department and by the Finance Department as well.
Any comments from council to Mr. Bateman?
No, the only comment I will make is that in talking with Mr. Bateman about the amendment, I think it was well crafted that just as a stopgap, a certification by a city attorney to look over it to be sure all the proper documentation was in place really reassures the city manager and staff that we're intact and can proceed. So I think it's good as it is.
Any other comments?
I think it just makes it better for the people that out here that need water as quickly as we did with the instance that we had on White Kiln Road. It gives them a better way to go about getting water.
Yeah.
And I think it's a big plus for the city to do this and have water and sewer available for those people that need it.
I agree.
Okay.
I make a motion that we adopt the amendment of City Code 3730.
Second.
Got a motion, second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you, Mr. Bateman. Item number 8, City Council will consider adopting a resolution to set a date of public hearing for April 15, 2014 for the Williams property, 1458 Pride Avenue, non-contiguous voluntary annexation. This time we'd recognize Mr. Daniel Schaffner. Welcome, Mr. Schaffner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, Mayor and Councilman. This is tied to a utility request at 1458 Pride Avenue, which, just for clarification for the applicant's sake, who's in the audience, Mr. Chad Williams back there, with the amendment, the adoption of the amendment of 3730, does that authorize us to proceed with water service for Mr. Williams, separate from the annexation, which...
If you get the certification and the paperwork done.
Excellent. Okay, thank you very much. And yes, sir, as tied to that, he did fill out an annexation petition for voluntary annexation for that property. I'm attempting to bring a map up for you. I had loaded up here and have a little bit of technical difficulty with that. Let's see if I can get that. It's located approximately a mile outside the city limits. This would be a satellite annexation. And the lot is roughly, here you go, it's right here. The lot is roughly 9,000 square feet. This very small blue square is the lot, and the green is the current city limits of Burlington. And what the request is, if you would like to consider annexation of the property, to ask to set a public hearing for the April 15th meeting.
As a practical matter, not a good idea, is it?
I don't know that staff would recommend at this time without further review of what it would cost to serve that property.
That's a polite way of saying it.
I will go further than that. We will not recommend.
Okay. Now, that's what I was looking for, is that
He's got the authority.
Daniel wanted to be polite about it, which I understand. Harold says, and I agree, and I'd make a motion that we not have a public hearing, deny the public hearing, because we have the agreement where within 21 years, if the circumstances warrant, we can request annexation. Now's not a good time. So with that, my motion's on the floor.
Second.
Well, let me make sure I understand that. So what we're denying is the voluntary annexation.
Today.
Today.
Yes. That annexation petition will be valid, as Mr. Ward implied, for 21 years, and we will record that in the Register of Deeds office, so it will be on record.
But the original discussion last night had to do with providing water.
Right.
And that's not an issue.
Not with the amendment of 37.
All right.
730 covers that.
Okay. Understand that.
But you brought it here based on the current 3730.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Henceforward, it's going to be different.
That's correct. And
Okay.
I'll just be bringing you annexation request.
All right. We got a motion. Do we have a second?
We did.
All All right, got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you, Mr. Shaw.
Thank you.
All right, that brings us to public comment period. We have one, Mr. Bob Byrd, proposed fixed route public transportation. Welcome, Mr. Byrd.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of the council for allowing me to speak. I'm here to speak in favor of the proposed local transit. And I'd like to make my remarks along two perspectives. One is sort of a local perspective, and the other is a regional perspective. So many of you know that I've served this community for a long time, over 35 years, at Alamance Regional Medical Center and on a variety of different boards. So at Alamance Regional Medical Center, I saw firsthand a lot of the transportation needs of our citizens, trying to make their medical appointments. The hospital spends thousands of dollars a year paying for taxi fares to get people out of the hospital and out of the emergency room. We have a lot of staff that had great difficulties in making it to work. I've served more recently on the Alamance County Transportation Authority Board with Mr. Fawcett and Mr. Butler. And I know from that experience the tremendous transportation needs that our citizens have. Serving on the board of Alamance Elder Care for several years has made me sensitive to the needs of the elderly. And you just think about as we age, and I'm a bona fide senior citizen now, I have my Medicare card, and lots of times we develop things like macular degeneration and slow reflex times, and there's just lots of reasons why some of our citizens really shouldn't be on the road, and they need alternatives to driving a vehicle. Serving on the Healthy Alamance Board for many years, and my experiences with the United Way and serving on that board many years, and all the community health assessments that we've done through the years, everyone has the need for public transportation near the top of the list. Working with the Open Door Clinic and the ALAMAP program, the Alamance Medication Assistance Program, I hear stories and heard stories all the time from the staffs of those two agencies about how people just can't get access to medical care and can't get access to pharmaceuticals. Working on the Alamance Community Services Agency Board for many years, that agency had a Wheels to Work program, and where people could donate a vehicle to the agency, and the agency would fix that vehicle up so that it was operable, and then working with the Department of Social Services, identifying people that met certain criteria, and as long as they showed that the only way they could get to work was to get one of these vehicles, then they got the vehicle. So it's just a good example how having the means to be transported is an enabler for a lot of people just to get to work. So we're talking about people getting to work, people getting to school, people trying to improve their situations by going to Alamance Community College, people needing medical services and shopping. So people with various kinds of physical and mental disabilities, the elderly, and frankly, those who just can't afford a car. Vehicle ownership is very expensive, and if they can't afford, maybe they can afford one, but they can't afford two. And maybe they need three in their families. So the people in this room, like myself and I think all of you, we take owning a vehicle very much for granted. But for a lot of people, even people who are working full time, it's a real struggle. So they need alternative ways. So on a regional perspective, in November I went to a regional planning meeting. It was called the Living Communities Summit in High Point. It was put on by an organization called Piedmont Together. It's a public-private partnership for regional planning. And in 2009, I was part of a delegation from the Alamance County Chamber of Commerce attending what was called Reality Check, a regional planning summit in Raleigh. And it really impressed upon me how important public transportation is in the bigger scope of things, in the bigger picture of moving people around. So if you think about some of the common themes for both of those events, our population is growing to the east and to the west by leaps and bounds, and we're right here in the middle, and we're going to experience some of that growth as well. And when you add another couple million people to the triad and to the triangle, you got to start thinking about, well, how are people going to move? And if those extra couple of million people all relied on, and they all use their private vehicles, just imagine the congestion that we're going to have. I mean, we have enough congestion on the highways now. So we need alternatives. Suburban sprawl is not sustainable. That was another theme of both of those conferences. As the population increases, it's not good for our environment, it's not good for livability, it's not good for our infrastructures. There's a whole new generation of people out there who are looking at ways to move around without vehicle ownership, or at least lessen their needs for vehicle ownership. These are people that really don't want anything to do. Many of the younger generation don't even want to have driver's licenses. So we need to be prepared for those people. So we think about regional transportation, and we all know about PART, the Piedmont Authority for Regional Transportation, and the PART's got this great way of transporting people inner cities, in both directions, and we have a PART park and ride lot here in Graham, and it's great. There are a lot of people that commute to these other cities on PART, and when they get to where they're going, there's a local transit so that they can actually get to where they're going.
30 seconds, Mr. Byrd.
Thank you. We don't have that here, so people commuting into Burlington or in Alamance County, they get here, but they can't get to where they're going because there's no local transit. So I just really urge this community to kind of get on the bus and adopt a fixed route transit system. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Byrd. That brings us to City Council comments.
Mayor, I'll just make one comment to follow up Mr. Byrd's statements. He and I did serve with ACTA, as I think he indicated that he and Councilmember Fawcett did, and I know there's been 3 major transit studies done, and I think Bob and I participated in one of those together, and I've said oftentimes that the need has been credibly established. It just has to be done in a way that's affordable with the tax base that we have, and with the proper exit strategy should federal funding go away. And through the marvels of modern technology, I understand that maybe Graham may have voted down the potential to participate this evening, but I do not think that should deter the city of Burlington from trying to do what's right for the residents of Burlington and the 50,000 that we are here to represent. And I think we should continue moving forward, and once the others are sort of complete with their timeline, I think it would be appropriate if we then addressed it head-on to see where we could head with it.
And to follow up with that, once again, I would state that we've talked about, and you'll see it on the agenda sometime in either May or June, so we will follow up and move forward. Any other comments from council? Congratulations to Councilmember Fawcett for being named the Vice Chair of the Rural Infrastructure Committee, so congratulations, represent the city well. If not, entertain a motion to adjourn.